right, we'll do it this way. And all right, so it's been a couple of weeks since I posted about the Delta, and it's week 5, which is actually an off week. And so there's another 4 weeks left, I guess, of another 3 or 4 weeks of materials, of units with actual material that we have to read through. And then after that, there's a couple of weeks where they give us time to do some practice exams and get some tutor feedback. And then in December, it's the exam already. So today I thought I would review some of the things that take place in Unit 3 and Unit 4. Unit 3, I actually didn't submit the tutor tasks because I got sick that weekend when it was due, and just by the time I felt better enough to do them, it was a couple days late already. He'd already sent the unit summary, so I figured, you know what, I'll move on to the next and complete Unit 4 instead, which is what I was able to do. There is a lot of reading overall, and if you're thinking about doing the Delta, I can say it's a lot of reading. And as I've noticed, the recommended reading, a lot of the recommended reading that they say you should read, it can also be found in the unit courses or the unit breakdowns here that I'm going to go through today. I guess that's because they drew the course from those recommended chapters. A lot of it sort of becomes, I don't want to say repetitive, but it is. I mean, there's only so much innovation that can happen in a couple, 10, 20 years sort of thing. So you'll get familiar with the vocabulary that's being used, the terminology, which I've talked about before. Overall, what's the good thing though about doing a lot of the reading is being able to develop that familiarity and making sure that and sort of it what would you say, it affirms it sort of confirms and affirms the things that you're reading in one place to another place. I don't know about you. If you read something once, you know it right away, whereas here, reading it 2 or 3 different times in 2 or 3 different places actually helps with it sticking just a little bit more, I think, anyway. So this is Unit 3, it was only, they had 2 parts of grammar, 1 part of phonology, and then 1 part for listening, and then there was some exam focuses as well. It wasn't, so again, this one, I didn't do the tutor tasks. As you can see, I've left that blank because I just wasn't feeling well that week. Again, with the essential reading, so Parrot, Grammar for English Language Teachers. Okay, so Unit 12, I think, is the past tense or future, and Unit 13 is the past or present. I don't know, it's one of those. There you go, present forms for Unit 13 and Unit 12, present forms, Unit 13, future forms. And literally this book goes through everything you need to know for all the verb tenses and stuff like that. Very, very thorough. There's another one called About Grammar, I think, but that one's more dealing with, what would you say, exercises for English teachers or exercises for ESL educators that it gets you to work through a lot of situations, and it's more practical in terms of hands-on, and is only hands-on sort of work. Whereas Grammar for English language teachers, it is mostly explanatory, and at the end of each chapter there's a consolidation, a series of consolidation questions with answer key. And it's all taken from the text, or I mean, it's all stuff that's covered in the chapter itself. So it's actually a good book if you're looking to buff up your knowledge of English grammar. Maybe if there's something that you don't know or aren't familiar with or don't know how to explain, I think that would be best exactly what it's able to do. It helps give a broader explanation and goes through some of the issues that learners can have. So it's actually a decent book for anybody who's, even if you're not doing the Delta, reading Grammar for English Language Teachers by Martin Parrott. That's certainly a book that you can take a look at. So this one, the reason why there was 2 grammar parts is that they were talking about 3 or 4 different verb tenses. I guess they say that English doesn't have a future function, future verb tense, but it does have the present and things that allude to the future, whereas it does have a past tense over here, right? Very sort of, I'm talking present time. So this actually, I think it even talks about going to, doesn't it? Yeah, so they just basically take a lot of their information from Martin Parrott's book right there, talking about the present. Two main reasons are semantic and formal. Okay, so this talks about present simple, present continuous, present perfect simple, and continuous as well, under talking about the present. So it's quite a bit of present form that they're talking about all in this one section. If you don't know what this is, chances are that you don't need to know all of this if you're not taking the delta. If you're taking the delta, you need to understand how these verb tenses are constructed, because they will give you a sentence and you have to analyze that sentence and break it down into all of its constituent parts: subject, modal or auxiliary, base infinitive, base form, S ending because it's third person singular, and be able to explain the an ing form because it's this, what verb or what tense is the auxiliary verb. Is it is, was, or will, things like this. So if you aren't able to do that, you need to read the book. You need to read Martin Parrott's book on how to understand how each verb tense is actually constructed. So there are different aspects of the present. So positive, the question, the negative, and the tense name. So this is what they ask you to do, and these are the suggested answers. So positive, it rains a lot. Question, does it rain a lot? You have to invert it does, because if you say it does rain a lot, that's saying yes, it does rain a lot. To make a question, you have to invert does, which is the auxiliary, and it. So does it rain a lot? And your intonation has to go up as well. It doesn't rain a lot, and that's the present simple. Present continuous, it is raining a lot. Is it raining a lot? It isn't raining a lot. Present perfect simple, it has. So the present perfect has in it, and then present perfect continuous has been. All right, so that's how you can sort of recognize how it's sort of constructed. Continuous means it has been and still is. Present perfect, it has rained a lot, so it could be finished by now. Present continuous means it's raining a lot right now. It is going on. And present simple is just generic, sort of it rains a lot. It could be happening right now. It could not be, but in general, that's sort of the what the present simple stands for. And this is what you have to do, is taking a look where you have to explain exactly the different how the whole thing is structured. So it rains a lot. Does it rain a lot? They give you this template, and going forward, talking about the different. So here they have to break down each of these. So they only have 3 definitions. Oh, sorry. Wait a minute. I missed a part here. No. Focus on form. So they're examining the first one, the present simple. Examples of the present simple verb forms. Again, here, when making a positive statement in the third person, add S to the main verb, rains, after it. So it sounds like something very obvious, but you have to say it. That's what it is. You have to show them that you've noticed that it is third person, positive statement, add S to the main verb. You as an English teacher would never think of really thinking of that unless someone directly asks you, why is the S there? Well, because it seems obvious, but that's what the delta is that it's a lot of obvious stuff that you just sort of assume and that people are aware of, especially if they're native speakers. But for the test, you have to actually state it. To form a question, use the auxiliary verb do. I wish they put quotation marks around that. It'd make it so much easier to read. And then you invert the infinitive, follows the infinitive auxiliary form do in the third person singular form, does at the front of the question, The subject then follows, and then the infinitive form of the main verb. Does it rain? Right. To form a negative auxiliary, does plus not is placed in front of the main verb. Not is normally contracted, so again, it seems very obvious, but you have to state that you have noticed it. The not is normally contracted in speaking and informal writing to int, it doesn't rain, etc. There you go. I won't go through this whole thing, but here they start talking about how some of these things can overlap the definitions. Present continuous, 2 is present simple. Definition 3 fits both perfect simple and present perfect continuous. So there you go, right there. Not a huge. Why did it disappear? I don't know. Good question. Oh well. I mentioned EnglishPage.com before. That's a good book. Good website if you don't have ready access to these grammar books or this unit. It's decent at least because it's also very thorough in its explanation. Doesn't go into as much explanatory depth as Martin Parrott's book does. Actually, I think they just took a lot from Martin Parrott. But Martin Parrott's book has been around for a while, so English Page was only published, 15 years ago, something like that. So it continues on. Present perfect simple compared to the present perfect continuous. Dad's painted the front room. Dad's been painting the front room. So is it still going? Is it ongoing or is it not? Dad has been painting the front room means that it could still be going. Dad's painted the front room means that it could be finished already, sort of things, that it's done and over. Aspects of the future. So this is where they start. I think they talk about how English doesn't actually have a future tense, and that's because it has to have an auxiliary will. Bizarre. Right, so there you go. Parrott writes, some languages have a single future tense, whereas English uses a lot of different verb forms to refer to future time. So a lot of choice on how to form the future, because it uses will and going to, will be arriving, we should be arriving. So there's a lot of sort of examples of ways to refer to the future. There's no one way of doing it in English. We're getting, should be arriving. We are, we are with you only for a few days. She is starting, so will start later on. I'm going to start when we get back. So that's already referring to a future when we get back, but it's referring to a future action. I hear she starts uni soon, so she will be starting. Will you be taking her, etc. So lots of different ways to refer to something that's happening sometime later in the future. This is a complete breakdown of what they will, of all the different verb forms that they talk about here, right? So again, getting in present continuous for travel arrangement. Plan is tickets are bought. Plan is confirmed. Should be future prediction. Present simple definite plan. Arrangement. Another arrangement in advance. Strong intention or resolution. There you go. So I mean, it's pretty thorough. When you're reading a text just by yourself, you don't really notice these things, but for the delta, I'm finding that you have to be, it's almost like you're just reading every single word and parsing it. You're taking it apart and like, how would I explain this to a delta examiner? Basically, that's what it is. Not how you even explain this to students. It's just like if the delta examiner knocked on your door, how do you explain, is she getting there by herself? And be like, it's an inquiry about a future arrangement. Has she planned to go there or not? You know, sort of thing. You have to panically answer the question, or else they'll mark you down or something like that. Again, with potential learning difficulties, they talk a little bit about how learners can struggle with some of these things. Moving on to the past, again, they refer essential reading as Martin Parrott Grammar for English Language Teachers, chapters 14 and 15, past simple and present perfect. If you read those two chapters, when you start this grammar for this unit, I mean, it's basically saying the same thing. It just, the difference with the units is that they give you little tasks to go through, to complete. Same with the tutor tasks. but it also gives you a check mark, which can help you stay motivated on course, right? They also strongly recommend a bunch of different books, and again, like you're reading books on verb tenses, which is very odd. Did you ever think that you would? If you do think that you would like to read grammar books, I think we play in different circles. To tell you the truth, I never thought I'd read books on grammar, but being in the ESL industry, I guess it's still being in the ESL industry. It's certainly helpful to at least understand it. So if I need to explain something a little bit more, even for my own knowledge, just being able to understand how English verbs are constructed and everything, it helps already being able to appreciate the difficulties that learners can have, and then giving targeted work or targeted exercises that will help people deal with certain types of errors that they would make with these verb tenses and stuff like that. Key terminology. So again, this is actually something to pay attention to if you ever do the units, where this is some of the stuff that you need to look up and make sure you are able to understand and explain and give an example, because those are the first two parts of the Delta. Paper 1, tasks 1 and 2, your terminology. If they give you something like this, they might actually give you an example sentence in task 2, and you have to be able to identify it, explain what it is, and give an example of it too, I guess, something like that. So give another example as well. So these are key terminology. They give you this sort of these words or these terms to be aware of. Moving on, phonology. This one, actually, the Sound Foundations. This book, level 1, it's like 80 pages, 90 pages or something for the first level. And again, it's kind of weird because it all seems to be very obvious stuff about how to say words and sounds, but it goes into a lot of detail of how the muscles work in your mouth, how your tongue, your cheeks, how you're breathing, your throat, your teeth, and how when you move your mouth, and even from one vowel sound to another vowel sound, there are little sounds in between that. So there's one vowel sound here, one vowel sound there, and in between there's actually a different range of other sounds that can pop up. And that book, Sound Foundations by Adrian Underhill, it goes into a lot of detail about that. Much more detail than, almost too much detail, to tell you the truth, than these units. But the unit sort of breaks it down pretty easily, pretty well, and it speeds through it, which is good, because I guess one of the most important things about the phonological aspect is, first of all, is that it is becoming more commonplace on the exam. As I've been told, there's a lot more phonological questions, a lot more focus on phonology. And again, going with this terminology right here, you have to be able to use the phonemic script. So that's the English words written in more English words, but spun around sometimes with colons and all other sorts of funny markings. It's the IPA, the International Phonetics Association grid. No doubt, if you're an ESL teacher or a language learner, you've seen the grid that I'm talking about. It does pop up, actually. I'll show it to you in a little bit. But that phonemic script, not only do you have to be able to read it, I think that you need to know how to write it, because sometimes it will pop up where you're asked to give the phonemic sort of phonemic script of the word that you're analyzing or something like that. Pure vowels, semivowels, and diphthongs, voiced consonants, unvoiced consonants, phonemes, blah, blah, all this stuff. I mean, segmental analysis, suprasegmental analysis. Okay. All right. Lots of great terms that you can throw around at the water cooler. Transcription practice. Okay, so this is your phonemic script right here. And I'll just skip through to the answers so you can see what it is, right? Workers of the world unite. Is that Marxism? Never in the field of human conflict. To be or not to be, that is the question. I guess for the phonetic script, script, you also have to block it off by these slashes, these backslashes. I can't get no satisfaction, and to boldly go where no man or no one has gone before, right? So that's your phonemic script that you do actually have to understand, because what will happen is you will be given usually a part of a spoken of a script, and they'll have the phonemic script written for it, and if they do that, you have to acknowledge that they've done it. So, and the phonetic script is, and you can see that the speaker is emphasizing properly or not emphasizing. So what they're testing you on is whether or not you recognize that the phonemic script is alluding to how the speaker is either correctly pronouncing or mispronouncing the words, and if their intonation is correct, which is, you can understand, if you've actually spent some time looking at this phonemic script, you might be able to understand how it's working together. I need to work on it, apparently, but that's the idea, is that if they give you a phonemic script for a word, you have to read that phonemic script and go, okay, this person has pronounced it correctly or has mispronounced it, because it sounds like, given that they're making this grammar error or that grammar error, this pronunciation is inconsistent with what they're saying, with the rest of the sentence, sort of thing. Very bizarre, very detailed, but apparently it's becoming a bit more prominent in the test. So pure vowels. What is pure vowel again? Good question. English tendency to diphthongize its vowels. That is to make one vowel sound glide into another. That's what the diphthong I. Fine, sign, ein. However, there's also 11 pure vowel sounds. All reproduce phonemic transcription below. Right, so here it's tin, tan, tan, sun, song, suit, keen, calf, saw, mood, word. So there's 11 of those that are pure. They don't change form at all. There's no diphthongs, no second sound. Tin, there's only one sound. Ten, it doesn't sound. It's not tan, not ten. Tan, sun. This word, the in that one vowel. Suit. Is there another one? No, that's it. Well, okay, so that's a little bit different. Okay, so moving on. Diphthongs. Fear, fair, tour, tai, say, soy, so, cow. So those, again, there's 8 diphthongs here that you have to. These ones get weird because they're taking the e and they're taking the schwa and they're flipping it upside down and stuff like that. Or take the schwa is upside down e. Consonants as well. This one can be kind of bizarre because they use these j, ch, ch, chi, ch. I don't know. Theater, that, s, z. I can't remember what that one is. Where are the answers? Oh, they didn't give us the answers. Are you kidding me? Oh, well. Anyway. Ration. I think that's sh. This is j. I believe pressure. Goodness. Yeah, I'm going to have to look that up again. This is ing. Sing. Ring. Things like that. I know that much. Sure. Inertia. Right. I'm sure if you've already passed the Delta, you already know the answers. All right, exam-related tasks. So make notes. Exam-related suggested answers. Let's just take a look at the answers then. There we go. Minimal pair. So this is part of the. This would be paper 1, task 2, where they give you task 1, where they give you the definition, or they give you the word and you have to give the definition. Task 2 is that they give you the definition and you have to give the word or the terminology for it. Minimal pairs. A minimal pair is a pair of words that vary by one single sound. For example, like fan and van. So people can get those mixed up sometimes. Diphthongs and suprasegmental analysis relating to significant features that occur simultaneously with vowels and consonants in an utterance. For example, studying the stress and intonation at word sentence level. There you go. Right. So let's go to concluding comments. Yeah, so there you go, right? Listening. So this is the one where Penny Ur, you have to read this book, Teaching Listening Comprehension. This is silly because they see recommended essential reading is chapters 1 to 3. Then it says, well, you should also read chapters 4 to 5. There's only 5 chapters in the book. So just read the book. Chapters 1 to 3 in Teaching Listening Comprehension by Penny Ur. Deals with the problems that learners can have and that teachers can have in finding appropriate listening materials for the classroom. A lot of what she talks about there is that the issues with using textbooks, textbook audio files and stuff like that, is that it's very clean. There's no stops and starts. There's no repetition. The sentence is, it's said once. It's said in a clear accent, a clear pronunciation form. It doesn't have any any stops and starts. And like, do you understand what I mean? There's no checking as well to understand if the listener actually understands what they are hearing. So it talks about some of the issues of providing textbook audio and real live audio, either like movies, radio broadcasts, or the teacher just speaking or doing a live broadcast like this sort of thing. Pros and cons to all of it, and understanding the issues with it. Chapters 4 to 5, she goes through, I haven't read those yet, but it's a thorough sort of explanation of some of the different exercises that you can use to use in class to help your learners listen better. This one was an interesting chapter because it talks a lot about how certain learners around the world will mishear how an English word is pronounced, and how it's sometimes difficult if you don't catch your learner. You can catch them and repeat it once, but if you're not able to give them that sort of drilling practice of repeating the word or the word phrase over and over again, they'll hear it. They have to associate the words that they're hearing with the words that they see phonetically spelt out and being able to say them as well, which just comes down to drilling and making sure that you catch those errors when they happen. Because if you come back, if you leave it for a little while, they might wonder, what are you talking about? When did I ever say that? So it's important to sometimes catch these errors as they happen. Do we provide naturalistic listening in class? This one, right? Okay, so I've never dealt with those. Cutting edge, pre-intermediate. Oh, this is the textbook, right? Okay, well, we'll just right on. Yeah. So commentary gives you a couple of excerpts from textbooks there, and this one, I guess you have to explain or what the different aims are, and this can be difficult when they ask you to explain the aims of, or whether or not you're basically analyzing a textbook or a page from a textbook and evaluating whether or not it's useful. Like it's not just valid, which means it's actually applicable, but why is it valid and why is it good for students? You can't just explain the process of what they have to do. You have to explain the why they are doing it. It's the whole aim. When the materials writer was sitting down to write this section, why did they include it? Content filler is not a good answer. You have to actually explain, well, the reason why they would use this is because this exercise has learners listening for words and phrases. In the dialogue, exercise 2B has them underlining suggested phrases of another way to focus the students on the target forms. And then exercise 2 is again then incidental to eliciting items of the target language. So building familiarity with it and being able that they're enabling them to use those words without even really thinking of it. And so that is a lot of it. Yeah, that's part of it. They will give you a part of a textbook that you have to analyze, and you have to be able to use lots of ESL terminology. So reading Scott Thornbury's A to Z of ELT teaching EL, A to Z of ELT, right? So it's your big terminology book. You have to be able to go through it, and you basically just brain dump all of your terms and rip this textbook apart, basically, or support it, but you still have to go through it very thoroughly. Do not assume that they will understand what you mean. You literally have to state it very concisely, and usually this answer is all in prose. They actually prefer that you don't do it in prose and that you'd rather do it in point form. So again, going back to the targeted terminology, this is something that you actually have to pay attention to. This is pre-intermediate level, so you have to understand what level it is. Unsimplified, authentic discourse, good words to use. Is it authentic or not authentic? Would be too difficult at this level. Not appropriate. So focus specific target language area rather than content. More good terms that you should be using. Element of purpose and expectation. So again, you have to give the aims, like why is something being used, not just go through the different process that's in the textbook. All right, so concluding comments, and then of course for the last part of this unit, they had us do some exam focus as well, and that was paper 1, task 1, so that's your definitions. Paper 1, task 2, more definitions. Paper 1, task 3, that is extract writing activity. Right, for pre-intermediate, so CIFR, CEFR level A2B1. So you keep that in mind when you're looking at this, that it has to target this group. And you have to figure out or remember what level, what elements of language learning they should be at A2B1. So if it's not C1 and it's not like A1, like just learning the alphabet sort of thing. It's right a pre-intermediate level where they're right in the higher end of learners, higher end of beginning learners sort of thing. And I guess they give an example of how to sort of be really thorough in your analysis of what's going on. This is the writing activity here. Yeah, okay. 3 further language features that learners at this level would need to use. So this is, again, your appropriate grammar, examples, lexical chunks, and then examples. So you have to, and these examples, you don't just go like give one or two words. You should actually write out a few more than you think is actually needed. Just more the better, I guess, in terms of examples. Speaking activity, right? Okay, so they had a writing one. Paper 1, task 3 can actually either be writing or speaking. And remember what I said about the phonetic script. Did they have it here somewhere? Oh, no. Oh, nope. Where'd it go? Or else I have to find the exam resources, which is in another... It'll take a while to load, but... So they'll give you a script that's broken down, that includes a phonetic script and everything, and you have to analyze it as it's appropriate for this level. Again, this is actually one of the things that when you're doing the test, they tell you, make note of what level you're targeting, because if you don't, and you start talking about what learners at C1 level are like, they're going to be like, that's it's incorrect, it's inaccurate, you're wrong, you don't get any points for that. So, and you want the points. All the points count. Every point counts. All right, so that is you can see I didn't do the tutor tasks. That's, again, because I was not feeling well that week, so I never did finish it. And by the time I got around to doing them, he'd already sent out the summary. All right, so I'm going to cut that here. Again, this is Unit 3, dealing with 2 parts of grammar, talking about the present and the future, and then talking about the past and all the continuous forms of them. Phonology, which is very important as it's becoming more prominent in the exam, and then also listening as well for the different well, for the Delta exam. Right. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there for Unit 3. I'll come back and I'll do Unit 4 in another little bit. All right, thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments below and I can get back to you. All right.